It's Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody back to another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. A lot to look forward to this week. It feels like a big fight week for me. Like, you know, we haven't had some really big fights outside the Bahia fight a few weeks back. And so now we're getting back into that pay-per-view mode. I'm excited for it. I know my man, John Morgan, is going to be excited for it. So let's go ahead and bring him on in. You can find him on X, John Morgan _MMA. He is the general manager of Cage Fighting Fury, or CFFC. We'll just go with that. Cage Fury Fighting Championship.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. CFFC, John Morgan. What's up, pal?
GM and CFFC. It's a lot of letters there. But yeah, hey, number one. First of all, very excited about the new position, man. Really, really excited to be kind of settling into that role, man. Obviously, you know what a CFFC fan I am and how much I appreciate the opportunities that Rob Haydack has given to me. So excited about that. But yes, 100% excited about this UFC pay-per-view. You know, I mean, the pay-per-views are always a step up. You know, fight nights are good. I like heading down to the Apex right down the road and seeing some fights. But pay-per-views are big, and this fight card is loaded with intriguing matchups. So, yeah, it doesn't get much better than this.
I'm fired up for a paper. Regardless about like who's ever at the top of the card or whatever, it just pay-per-views feel different, right? They just are. They're marketed different, obviously, because more money comes in and there's more expenses and yada yada yada. But my enthusiasm, the machine that is the UFC, when they start kicking things out, you started seeing it on Fight Night, the advertisements for it, it just gets you jacked. And I get excited for big pay-per-views. And I would say overall, you know, you're not, you know, there are big names on it, but not like we've seen. And so it's not like Justin Gaethje and Alex Bahia and Ankalaev. And, you know, it wasn't that in this card. But from a fan perspective, I think the fights are very, very intriguing. And so I'm like you, I'm so excited for this card.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't want to jump ahead too far, but like I was literally just talking to John Anik and Kenny Florian, and he was talking about the main and co-main event. And he was like, out of those four guys, who's your most confident is walking home with a victory? And I'm like, can you really be confident in any of those four guys? Like, do you look at any of these matchups and be like, I know 100% what it's all about? And you and those are the kind of fights that I like, right? I mean, those are the kind of fights where you see both scenarios happening. And so really, really intrigued by this card. And to your point as well, this is where the UFC does their best storytelling, right? I mean, this is when it's a big pay-per-view. Obviously, they're financially motivated. They got to get people to go out there and buy it. But, you know, just the fight nights happen every week in and out. It's tough to stay on that grind and to keep people probably. Here's where they really get to roll out the red carpet and pull out all the bells and whistles to do this amazing storytelling for these amazing matchups. And I really like the lineup they put together for this pay-per-view. So very, very, very fun night of fights coming up on Saturday night.
In my head, we're going to break down the kind of the top three fights on the card, and that's kind of where I wanted to go today. But with that being said, like, what fight intrigues you the most on this card?
Oh, man, see, that's intriguing just within itself, right? Because when I look at Alexander Volkanovski against Diego Lopes, the main event, you know, the title is on the line. We know Ilia Topuria is moving up and how that's all changing at lightweight. Intriguing. Is it Alexander Volkanovski, the former champ, the pound for pound great? You know, is he still that guy, or has he slipped just a little bit? Or is it Diego Lopes, who has one of the most amazing meteoric rises up at the top? So that one intrigues me. But I mean, how about Michael Chandler and Paddy Pimblett? I mean, what about that one? I mean, how intriguing is that? Not a fight that I ever saw coming together. Not one that I ever even thought would happen. And as soon as they announced it, you know, absolutely love it. And then Bryce Mitchell and Jean Silva. I mean, if you didn't see that on sale press conference, I mean, it was wild scenes to say the least. So that's that. And now we're not even talking about Yair Rodriguez and Patricio Pitbull. I mean, the Bellator great coming over the UFC late in his career. And
that is a fight that I don't know whether I'm excited for the fight or I'm just excited to see the way it plays out, because let's start there. I'm going to tell you right now, the fight that intrigues me the most, right?
Okay.
The two fights that intrigue me the most, let me say that, is the Silva-Mitchell fight.
Yep.
And the Paddy Pimblett and Michael Chandler fight. Those two intrigue me the most.
Right.
And then if we go one step down from there, I do want to start. I said we're going to do the top three. Let's do the top four. Let's the Yair Rodriguez and Pitbull match. If we get to it, we can break down. But what intrigues me about it is Pitbull. let's be honest, he's a boring fighter to a degree, right? He waits for you and he waits for you and he finds his spot and then he'll rush and he'll do something. But he doesn't care about getting stuck in the mud. He just doesn't care. And he fights that way. But he's going to be going against a guy who, if he can solve the riddle, is going to have a lot of opportunities to engage in firefights with him, because Yair Rodriguez is going to come throwing every weird thing in the book at him. So I'm just anxious to see how that unfolds. A guy who's willing to walk backwards or forward and not throw a lot until he eventually throws a lot.
Well, and that's the point that I wanted to point out, is that's why I love the matchmaking here, right? I mean, the UFC knew exactly what they were doing with this, even though Patricio Pitbull was not their guy, that he's been the Bellator great for a long time. They clearly understood the type of style that he brings to the table, because Yair is going to put him in that style, right? I mean, Yair is not going to sit back on the outside and wait and pick you apart from distance and avoid. No. And once Pitbull does engage, he can engage violently, right? So I am really intrigued by that. So, and I want to make sure, because if you're a fan that doesn't watch a lot of Bellator, that isn't familiar with this game, I want to make sure and clarify that he is patient and he isn't necessarily high volume, but when he explodes, he has the ability to finish fights. So I love the matchmaking on this. It's a little late in Patricio's career at this point. I mean, I think he's 37 at this point, I believe. That's a tough age to be making your debut in the UFC, but that also comes with a lot of experience. He's been fighting elite level athletes, even who has him at the UFC level. So and he's getting this opportunity late in his career, which you wanted, man. And so this is a dream moment for him. I mean, had a chance to see him again at the on-sale press conference that they had here in Las Vegas. And I think, the reaction that he got, I mean, you could just see the joy on his face. It was exciting to see a crowd that big for a press conference. Now he's going to get to see a sold-out Cageside Center, man. It's going to be a big moment for him. So love this fight. It's one of the most intriguing there is. But that's why I love this card so much, because you started out, and you're right, it doesn't necessarily have the biggest stars in the game, right? It doesn't have the John Jones. It doesn't have the Alex Bejeda, the biggest stars right now. But the intrigue of what they did in each one of these matchups makes this a very, very fun fight card.
All right, now let's start at the top, right? Because this is the big dog. It's for the strap. Ilia Topuria vacates. And now Volk and Diego Lopes both get their shot. Volk to get it back. Diego Lopes to have an improbable run could culminate in a UFC World Championship. That's crazy to say if you were to rewind 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
This whole fight is breaking down to how is Volk physically and mentally. That's the whole story here. I mean, we know who Diego Lopes is. He's fast. He's furious. He's got a great ground game. He can strike. He'll be patient when he needs to be patient. He'll be violent when he needs to be violent. He can push the pace on you if he chooses to do that. He can come out and try and overwhelm you and have the gas to do it. I mean, he is so well-rounded in that degree. But I think if you look about it, could that handle Volk 2 years ago? Probably not, in my opinion. But the Volk we've seen over the last year and a half, ever since, let's be perfectly honest about what we're talking about. Ever since the head kick knockout to Islam Makhachev, he has been different. Mm-hmm. And he was different going into that fight, short notice, probably shouldn't have taken it. That's what this fight all boils down to that.
I could not agree with you more. And that's what I've been, anybody that asked me about this fight leading into it, it all boils down to what Alexander Volkanovski do we have? And I don't want to take away from Diego Lopes by saying that. Diego Lopes, to me, you laid it out, incredibly skilled, and honestly, one of the best stories in the sport right now, right? I mean, to get to the Contender Series as late in his career as he did and to lose there, and to have to go back out and compete on the regional scene again, and then to get that short notice call up to answer it, and then to just keep answering the opportunities and taking advantage and rolling. And now, as you said, improbable, if you'd have said this 2 years ago that he'd be in this title fight, unbelievable. So it's one of the best stories in the sport. He's put in the hard work. He's a good dude, and he absolutely has the ability to win this. But if you're telling me this is Alexander Volkanovski of 2022, right? Or when he's just absolutely lighting up Chan Sung Jung, when he's continuing to beat Max Holloway, when he's surviving an incredibly difficult Brian Ortega and winning that
Max Holloway striking look mediocre.
It's unbelievable. That run that he had, I mean, you go all the way back to heck, if you want to go back all the way to Jeremy Kennedy, back in 2018, I mean, that's a guy that is really tough. Maybe not
stars. Go back to Chad Mendes. Go back to Chad Mendes.
Darren Elkins, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway. I mean, you look at that hit list and how dominant and impressive he was. If that guy is still there, and he's not old. Volkanovski is not old at this point, right? He's 36 years old. So it's not like it's done. It could still be there, but he's got a lot of miles. And, what did that knockout to Islam Makhachev do? What did the knockout afterwards to Ilia Topuria do? What did it do? And I love what you said, not just physically, but mentally as well. What did it do to him? And where is he in this stand? Because, he's still elite level. There's no question that Alexander Volkanovski is one of the best featherweights in the world. I'm not just saying of all time. I'm saying of right now. But when you're at that very top level, and there's so much tape on you, and people have studied you, and they've broken down your game, and they know your tendencies. If you're slipping up just a little bit, that can be the difference. And Diego Lopes is that guy with all the momentum on his side. We know where his mentality is. I mean, he's just brimming with confidence. He's on another level right now. So, yeah, as much as I'd love to sit here and break down the tactics of exactly how this can play out and should play out, to me, it all boils down to, is Volkanovski 100% mentally and physically? Because if he is, I think he wins the fight. If he's 98, 95, then you give Diego Lopes that opportunity because he's a dangerous man. So I don't know anybody. It's tough because I don't know anybody that's not. If you're not a Volkanovski fan, there's absolutely something wrong with you, right? I mean, the dude is just a great fighter. Yeah, you're wrong. He's a great guy, and nobody's going to be cheering against him. But he does stand at 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Now, granted, some very elite level competition. Now with Ilia moving up, all 3 of them are technically lightweights, right? 2 to Islam Makhachev and 1 to Ilia Topuria. So, I guess you could say, if you want to spin it positively, he's 1-3 in his last 4. I could spin it and say he hasn't lost to anybody that isn't a featherweight since 2013, right? So, I mean, there's ways to look at it. So it's a competitive fight. And again, when we talk about intrigue and amazing storyline and unsureness of how this is going to go, this fits that bill.
I want to go back to the Ilia Topuria fight because I remember I came on that Monday when we recorded and said, Volk looked different. He looked different. Volk is such a great speed in and out fighter, right? And he can go in and out effortlessly. He did that against Max Holloway and made Max Holloway's striking look mediocre in those fights, especially that third one. Then he took the head kick knockout. Then he took a lot. Let's not forget, he lost the striking exchange in Islam 1.
Right.
He did get that knockdown at the end, but for the most part, the impact of punches were different in that first fight. The second fight, he takes the head kick knockout on short notice. To him, he said he wasn't doing anything, and he just kind of took the call, grabbed the opportunity and the payday, and ran with it. Right. Then let's bring it to Ilia Topuria because everybody was talking about the precision and the power that he has. And I really think it messed with Volk mentally because in every exchange, he wasn't coming in his normal in and out. He's darting in and out and is countering in and out. And I made the point on our podcast following that knockout loss. Every time he did something, he was fading away. He had a healthy fear, or it was definitely something that he was worried about. Let's say that. And then he gets clipped doing it, because when you pull back, you're exposing a lot of times you're exposing your chin, and then Topuria caught him with a vicious counter and put him down and put him out. And that was 2 vicious knockouts. Both of them are some of the worst knockouts you're going to see. And so that comes in. Now, it has been a long time. He has had a long time off, but if he is going to revert back to, let's just say he's 90% physically capable of what he was capable of 3 years ago. Let's say 85%. I think that's a good metric. I still think he gets it done at 85%. But if he's 85% physically and only 50% mentally, he does not get it done, because then he makes those mistakes that he made against Topuria that cost him the knockout.
It's so hard as well, because it's impossible not to let those things affect you, right? I mean, they do. When you're knocked out like that, you think about it. And especially, Alexander Volkanovski at this point in his career, later on in his career, it probably doesn't need financially to necessarily be out there and do it. Has young children at the house that he's thinking about their future and being around and being healthy to do that. But once those things happen to you, there's that, that confidence that comes with just winning, where you have this fear of invincibility, this era, I should say, of invincibility, where you don't have that fear in place, where there is no fear. You think, I'm fearless. I can go out there and do this because it doesn't happen to me. I can do it. And as soon as you hesitate just a little bit, man, at that point, it really does open up for your opponent to really cash in on that. And so I think that's and boy, let's add in the fact too, that Diego Lopes is dangerous early, right? I mean, he's known for being dangerous early. He's not going to be a guy that's slow starting. So if you're Volk, and you're facing a guy that, okay, I know this guy is in it with me for 3, 4, 5 rounds. I know he's going to settle in. We're going to go out there and we're going to feel each other out a little bit. We're going to settle in. We're going to get that confidence back under. We're going to feel that canvas on our feet, and we're going to know that we belong to being here. We're going to remember what this is like. You're not getting that opportunity. You better be switched on from moment one, because that dude is coming after you. So it's very, very intriguing early, man. And I think you're spot on with that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because, with the Dan Ige fight, he came on strong, but he faded a little bit, and, a couple weight cuts. Really weird fight week surrounding that one, right? His last fight, he has started slower, or let's say he's matured in his game, even at an advanced age, because he has the wind to go. But if I am Diego Lopes's coach, I'm going to say, you swarm, and you swarm early. I want you hitting the gas pedal in that first round. I don't want Volk to get any confidence back. I want you to overwhelm him with your athleticism, your size, your reach, maybe your strength. I don't know, but I think your reach for sure, and your size. I want that to overwhelm him, because if he's got it, we can't let him. I'm saying we, as in I'm Diego Lopes's camp. We cannot let him understand that he can take our shots.
Nope.
If he gets that confidence back, hey, I can avoid him. I can take him. Now I'm back to old Volk. That is a bad day for Diego Lopes. But if Diego Lopes could swarm early, put him on his back foot, and have that, where is he at mentally, checklist going through his head, it's going to expose gaps in Volk's game, and it's going to expose him fast. So put on the gas first. And I think that is his best path to victory. Because could you grind out a 25-minute fight? Probably. I'm going to say, though, if Volk gets you on the ground, he's so strong and powerful. Like, I do think he could kind of hold you there, even though Diego Lopes's grappling is great. I just think that's the best path, though. Get him early. Go after him. Put on the gas.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I would go in there thinking that, listen, we know, let's go 100% at 5 minutes. Now, if we come back to the stool after 5 minutes, then let's discuss how we're feeling. We may decide we want to dial it back just a little bit for 2. We don't think you can sprint for 25 minutes, and we're aware of that. But let's sprint for 5, and then let's see where we stand after that, because I think you're absolutely right. To me, the most uncertainty is in those opening 5 minutes for Volkanovski, right? He's had these frustrations. He's had these mental challenges. He's openly admitted it, right? I mean, he's having to kind of rebuild the psyche and rebuild the confidence. And as you said, if we give him that opportunity to settle in and go like, oh yeah, I'm still that guy. I remember I've been here against Aldo. I've been here against Mendes. I've been here against Holloway. I'm the greatest featherweight in the history of the UFC. If you let him build that confidence, it's going to get increasingly more challenging for you. And again, as you said, Lopes is fighting a little bit more mature, but we don't know 4 or 5 against championship level, elite level competition where he's going to be. It wasn't that long ago that he was the improbable guy that wasn't even in the UFC. So I am 100% with you. I think if you're in the corner of Diego, you go hard for 5 minutes and you see where you're at. And that's where I think his biggest opportunity to capitalize is. And then for the rest of the fight, yeah, The jiu-jitsu is amazing. Is it going to be good enough to submit Volkanovski? I don't know. We're going to see about that. But I think those opening 5 minutes are going to be filled with intrigue.
So where's Volkanovski's path to victory? I believe it's in let's not be bullied. Let's get this into a strategic fight. If you get this into a strategic fight, he out-strategized and outpointed Max Holloway, who we think, self-proclaimed, but I have nothing to disavow what Max Holloway says as being the best boxer in the UFC. I have nothing, and he out-strategized and he outboxed him and he because they got into a tactical fight at that point. Don't be bullied early. Stay tight, stay composed, and then get this into a tactical fight. Because we've seen with Ige, it eventually got into a tactical fight. And Ige started having some success. We've seen that Diego can slow down to a degree. And then that's, you are right for the pickings with Volkanovski getting that thrown back, in my opinion.
I completely agree. To me, it's survive that early trouble of the opening 5 minutes. As you said, don't be bullied in that. Be ready, be aware. And then over the course of 2 through 5, just use that veteran savvy, right? Like make him think we're striking and grapple, make him think we're grappling and strike. Let's be dynamic. Let's be who we are. Let's switch the stances the way we do. Again, let's use the grappling and then let's bail out on it if we feel we're in tough moments. Exactly that. So I think, again, you're going to expect Lopez to be the more dangerous fighter early, but I think if you're Volk, you just got to drag this thing into deep water, survive that early trouble, and then, show that man your class over time.
So the odds on this, what do you think about the odds? I'm going to go on UFC.com. Their odds are Volk minus 148 with the comeback on Diego Lopez at plus 124. What is your initial instinct to that? Do they have it right? Do you think it's a little bit off? Where are you thinking?
I mean, to me, I'll be honest with you. I think in my head, this is basically a 50-50 fight. So, and those aren't way off from 50-50 lines.
No, they're not.
But I think what's maybe baked into there is, the championship pedigree of Volkanovski. You know what I mean? It really, honestly, if you're looking at recent results and trends, Diego's the more dangerous guy right now. You know what I mean? So so for him to be the dog, you might really like that if you're sitting on that Diego side. But Volk still is Volk. And again, it sounds silly to say, but now with Ilya moving up to 155, those are all technically lightweights. And Islam, by the way, is a massive lightweight that barely makes lightweight. You know what I mean? I remember us talking about those fights going like, come on, man, why are you doing this? So I'm a little bit, in my head, it's a pick 'em type fight, but I think what you're seeing in there is that sentiment of Volk's history.
What I'm seeing in there is not looking at Volk's recent history too, though.
Right.
I put this at a pick 'em as well. So when I pulled up the odds this morning, knowing that we were going to be talking about it, I was like, I really thought that it would be like a minus 105, somewhere around there. But it's not. It's significantly higher than, not like wide margin better, but it's not 200-300.
Right.
But I'm surprised a little bit. And so, do you look at things of like, hey, Diego Lopez was filming The Ultimate Fighter for a while. He's running. Maybe all that stuff is coming into play. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know, right? This is the biggest opportunity for Diego Lopez by far, right? And at some point, do you start getting caught up in the moment? Do you start getting pulled in too many different directions? Do you start doing things differently than you were? He seems like a disciplined guy, though. This is a dude that I don't see necessarily out partying or anything. I feel like his entire life is built around training and teaching and all those things. So I think he's going to be ready. I think this is going to be two ready to go athletes. And again, as you kind of alluded to, it just really boils down to, where is Volk's head at? Where's his physical capabilities at? Because if he's operating at that prime level, I think he wins this fight. If he's not, then Diego Lopez is your new featherweight champion.
Be crazy to say, wouldn't it?
It really would. And you know what? But it's I do love these stories, though, man. I do Volk's already been there, done that. Volk is a clear Hall of Famer, right? You can make the argument that he's the greatest featherweight of all time. He has the victories over Aldo. He has the victories over Max Holloway, especially. So it's you can make the argument that he's the greatest of all time. So it's he doesn't need this. But I know he wants it. I know he wants it to prove something. And obviously, he wants to get it back for his own confidence, for his own, self-belief. But this Lopes story, I don't know how you can't be a fan of really both these guys. I mean, Volk is proving it. Diego is one of the just to get into the UFC that late in your career, and I've talked to his manager, Jason House, about like how close he was to like basically being done and just being like, well, I guess it's not for me. You know what I mean? And you just keep at it and you keep chasing it and you keep believing that the dream is going to happen. And then one day it does, you know what I mean? And the way his life has changed financially in a very short period of time, everything about it is unbelievable. So to be able to see him cap it off with this unbelievable, to be a UFC champion, to be able, to go to sleep for that one night, knowing that you're the best in the world and nobody can say anything about it, would be an amazing way to cap off an amazing story. So either way, we're getting an incredible story here. It really just does boil down to me, is Volk still Volk? Because if he is, he wins. If he's not that Volk, if he slipped just a little bit mentally or physically, it will be Diego Lopes. And again, just the unbelievable ride that he's been on.
All right, let's go to the co-main, which I think is going to be taking a lot of the spotlight on this card. Michael Chandler, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Who was it, against Gordon a year and a half ago when Paddy got that gift decision against, I believe it was Gordon. Could you believe you would be saying he is fighting Michael Chandler in the co-main event of a UFC pay-per-view? I mean, when you really think about that, that's a little crazy, right?
It is wild. Yeah, and it was Jared Gordon. You're 100% right about that. Very controversial, to say the least. And then he's come back and he's beaten Tony Ferguson and King Green since then. No, I couldn't have, to be honest with you. And I like Paddy Pimblett a lot, man. I've watched the rise. And
it seems like he's more disciplined now, too.
100%. Oh, 100%, man. I think he's realizing he's got to be at this point. So, the star power off the charts, man. I mean, obviously, he's got the personality, he's got the action, he's got the fun, but the way the crowd reacts to him is unbelievable, man. And it doesn't matter. Of course, yeah, in Europe, he's adored, but really, honestly, anywhere I've seen him, man, the crowd really gets behind him. So it's going to be fun. But this was not a matchup that I saw being put together, and a matchup that torn on this one as well, man, to be honest with you, torn on this one, right? Because when you think about Paddy Pimblett, you think about his great grappling abilities, right? I mean, you really do. It's more of a submission threat. Although, don't get me wrong, he's a capable striker as well, and he does have power in his hands. But Michael Chandler is like, power personified.
Yeah.
And I think about, his collegiate wrestling background, the defensive grappling capabilities that he has. Like, I don't think Paddy Pimblett is like shooting a double and taking Michael Chandler down. You know what I mean? So it's got to be, grabbing something in transition, forcing something out of the clinch, that sort of thing, right? But gosh dang it, doesn't Michael Chandler just always find a way to have something not go his way, to make a mistake, to take a risk they didn't necessarily need to take, because he just likes to be fun and he likes to be exciting, and he is incredible, because his UFC run has been full of entertainment, man, but not necessarily full of results. He's 2-4 in the octagon. You know what I mean? So I did not see this matchup coming together. Obviously, for the longest time, we thought Chandler was going to get his shot at Conor McGregor, and he maintained it for so long, to the point that we were like, come on, man, you finally got to let it go. He does. He loses to Charles Oliveira. Now he's got Paddy Pimblett, who would seem to be, I don't want to say a step down in terms of skill level, but a step down in terms of accomplishments and rankings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paddy Pimblett hasn't been there yet. So I don't mean that as a knock on his skill set.
But from even like an Oliveira, like a step up in intriguement, and a step up from like fan perspective of like, Oliveira is beloved, but I don't think people are like, we love Charles Oliveira. You know what I mean? Like, people are like that for Paddy Pimblett. I mean, I look at this fight from a perspective of, they are throwing Paddy into the deep end and saying, time to sink or swim, kid.
100%. This is the opportunity. And you talk about odds. This was one that shocked me a little bit as well, man. I was a little bit surprised to see this, and it made me wonder, is the odds being where they are reflective of Paddy Pimblett's popularity with the public, or is it me maybe being an old head, loving me some Michael Chandler, you know what I mean? And just going, no, you don't disrespect Michael Chandler that way. I
find the odds, and just so we're, talking clear, Paddy Pimblett on UFC, their odds, I think they use, who do they use? DraftKings. They use DraftKings. Yep. Paddy is a minus 155 favorite on the comeback of plus 130 for Chandler. I opened that up and I looked at it and I said, whoa. Because here's how I think the fight will go, or could go. Probably in my head will go. Michael Chandler's going to come out like a freight train. He's going to dominate round number 1. He's going to dominate 2/3 of round number 2, and then he's going to start fading, right? And then it's Paddy's turn, if he can get through. Now, with all that being said, I believe it's contingent on Paddy being able to take him down. And just in my heart of hearts, I love both these guys. I just don't think he could do that. I think Chandler, if he was smart in that 3rd round, if it gets there, just put him against the cage. Jared Gordon did it, and Jared Gordon got robbed of a victory. But that's what Jared Gordon did to Paddy Pimblett. Held him against the cage. And Paddy Pimblett could not get off the cage against Jared Gordon. Now you're talking about a Division I All-American wrestler holding you against the cage. Now, this has to be a shot to Michael Chandler's ego to be able to even do that, because that's not the way he's built. But he needs a win. He wants to take the shine off this kid. That's what he's got to do. I think he comes out, try to control your emotion, try to control your explosiveness in that opening frame. But have we seen Paddy take a bomb yet? I don't know. Michael Chandler packs some serious freaking power, and let's be honest. Paddy's last 2 fights of his highest step up in competition, Tony Ferguson, not in the UFC anymore. He hadn't won 8 fights, any of his 8 last fights in the octagon, and then King Green, albeit a big fan favorite and somebody that we can all get behind and that we really adore and like. He's a journeyman. He's a journeyman in the UFC. And he's always a guy who, could he get there? Probably not. But, we're going to watch him because he's cool, talks a lot of ish, and we ride with guys like that. But he's not at the top. Like, even though Michael Chandler's at the top, even with a losing record, he's still at the top. And so the odds are crazy to me. I'll say it. They're crazy to me. Not saying that Paddy can't do it, because I think he's got the skills too, but it's going to take Michael Chandler making mistakes, which is very possible.
It is. No, I thought the same way. Honestly, I thought the odds should be basically reversed, to be honest with you. I thought Michael Chandler should be the favorite. He is faced the far superior competition for a very, very long time. The man is coming in shape. There's no question about that. I guess maybe the fact that it's a 5-round fight, it is a 5-round co-main event. So maybe that's what
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. And so that's the only thing I can think, because when I look at it from a striking perspective, I wouldn't say that there's a huge edge either way. I would give the power advantage to Michael Chandler, but I don't think, and the speed, you know what I mean? And again, when I look at the grappling, I do think that, Paddy is a real dangerous submission threat, but I mean, Michael Chandler has been in there with Charles Oliveira twice, who's as dangerous as they get in the submission game. I don't think Paddy's a better grappler than Charles Oliveira, and he wasn't able to submit him. So, I look at the fact that I don't think Paddy is necessarily going to be able to get this to the ground in traditional means. Again, a scramble, something in a clinch or something. But I just don't see him, again, shooting a double or running the pipe on a single or something like that and getting a takedown.
Dragging him down against the cage.
I don't either. The only thing I see is, Michael Chandler throwing a massive haymaker and finding himself off balance, and that allows a scramble opportunity for Paddy Pimblett or something like that. But then I do point to, yes, I guess what has to be shifting it in the odds in that favor is rounds 4 and 5. If it's not simply the fact that people love some Paddy Pimblett, if the odds are true indicators of skills and likelihood of victory, it has to be that you're assuming this thing is going to go late, and that Chandler is going to potentially fade a little bit. And I don't know, man. He's a big muscular guy, and he makes big explosive moves. So maybe that's what you're banking on. Or you're just banking on the fact that he tends to make unnecessary mistakes sometimes along the way and present opportunities that he shouldn't. Maybe that's what you're banking on. But I'll be honest with you, I would still, and I like Paddy Pimblett a lot. I think he got disrespected unnecessarily. Kind of being treated as a hype train and people not absolutely looking at his skills. I think he is skilled, but again, I don't know. Maybe it's just my affinity for Michael Chandler, but I feel like he should be a slight favorite in this matchup.
Yeah, a lot of fighters dislike Michael Chandler, but I think we love us some Michael. When Michael Chandler first got into Bellator and he made those waves with Eddie Alvarez and those fights, I was like, I don't know what it was about Michael Chandler. I couldn't root for him. Now, like, I don't know. I don't know what it was, man. Maybe young and I don't know. Or maybe he just had the total package, and I'm like, screw guys like that. You know what I mean?
he's getting the Dricus Duplessis treatment in there, right? You're like, get out of here.
But then, I see a guy who is a family man who's dedicated to staying in top shape all the time. Outside the cage, at least he's doing all the right things, man. It's hard for me not to root like a guy. Now I know Dustin Poirier has problems with him. Justin Gaethje has problems with him. He's had some questionable things in there. Do I think he's a dirty fighter? No. But do I think he's an ultimate competitor? Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I can tell you, Michael Chandler, in every interaction I've ever had with him, is the nicest human being. I mean, that dude is really like, I'll never forget. I remember I was in Abu Dhabi when Michael Chandler, it was announced that he was signing with the UFC, and I was with the UFC PR staff, and I was like, you guys probably don't know much about Michael Chandler, right? And they're like, well, I mean, we've seen him a little bit, but no, obviously we're focused on our own company. And I'm like, guys, you are not going to find a more consummate professional or a greater representation of your brand moving forward. You are going to love working with this guy. And they all came back to me afterwards like, remember when you said that? You were absolutely right. Like, this dude is amazing. So yeah, I love Michael Chandler. And again, maybe that's painting my feelings in here a little bit because I do like him as a person. I know the criticism of him, but I think Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, I think they always need to kind of not like the guy they're in there with too. You know what I mean? They kind of like
but they talk a lot of smack about him afterwards too.
They definitely have. But hey, it's a cage fight, man. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying in there. Like you said, you're an ultimate competitor. You're trying to make things happen. So I love this fight too, man. That's why I said, I had that conversation with John Anik and Kenny Florian this morning, and they were like, out of those four guys, who would you most say is most likely to walk away with a victory? And I was just like, I went with Volkanovski, but I'm like, let me just say that I don't have any degree of certainty that any four of these guys is walking out of here. And those are exactly the kind of fights that I like. It's just like, man, I can see both paths happening. But to me, I was a little surprised by the line. I thought Chandler should be the favorite here.
That is a tough question to answer.
Right?
It is, because I'm going to say, if this was a 2-round fight, Michael Chandler.
Right, there you go.
3-round fight, I was still leaning heavily towards Michael Chandler. And then now the truth bomb was dropped on my head that this was a 5-round, that I didn't even realize it. I guess I just overlooked it in my research. That's a whole different game, and he tends to make mistakes when he gets tired, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still gotta ride with Chandler. I just don't think he's gonna be able to get taken down. And if Chandler can bank 3 rounds, I don't see Paddy Pimblett knocking out Michael Chandler.
Yeah. It's
he's
like
got too much intestinal fortitude to go down from strikes when he's tired.
100%. It's like if I told you that the fight ended in round 1, who do you think wins? And you're like, oh, that's Michael Chandler all day. If I told you, hey man, this thing actually ended in round 5, who do you think won there? I'm like, Chandler made a mistake late, didn't he? Damn it. It's a
but
great
now
fight.
Say if it goes to a decision.
Tough. Like, where did it go?
Right?
I'm telling you, it was funny. The way that John Anik posed the question to me was to save a gerbil's life. And as I was contemplating, he said, or you can just say, they killed the gerbil. I'm like, well, it's just a gerbil. I mean, if you just said a puppy, maybe I'd have stepped up for it. But
yeah.
Just let it in.
But listen, that's a fun fight. The main's a fun fight. The two polarizing figures right now in the world of MMA are set to collide Saturday night in Miami, Florida. Bryce Mitchell, the once baby face, get me my camo, where everybody loved him, to then the drifting into, you may be going a little bit too far in some of your theories, to you went way too far. Bryce Mitchell taking on Silva, who is lightning in a bottle right now.
Yep.
And this line shocked me as well, because Bryce Mitchell's a pro when he gets in there, right? Now, he took the vicious knockout loss to Emmett, comes back, gets a victory, but Bryce Mitchell is a pro. Like, he's not going to intentionally engage in firefights with you. He's going to take you to where he wants you to take it, and he's fine with grinding you out and making you miserable. And I don't think Silva, or I know Silva, hasn't really had that test yet. And so for Silva to be a minus 340 favorite in this fight is you said it before we started recording. I think there's some baked in Bryce Mitchell hate here.
100% has to be, you know what I mean? Because again, take all the things outside of the cage out of the equation. If you're really just looking at this as I'm breaking this down as a martial arts contest, what are the opportunities? Now, is John Silva dangerous? He absolutely is. To me, I've actually already got him in my rankings. He's not ranked, but in the one that I turn in every week to the UFC, he's at number 15 right now. So I actually already have him in my rankings. And he is a star on the rise. I mean, obviously, the entire Fighting Nerds team is the talk of the town, but this dude is unbelievable. And this press conference is performance against Bryce Mitchell there, and bringing out the globe to show him that the earth isn't flat and all. I mean, it was amazing, right? And Bryce, you know, the world really has turned on the guy, and he's come out and apologized for what he said and said maybe he went a little bit too far. But again, take all that out of the equation and let's just say, hey, let's break this down into martial arts contest. I think Bryce Mitchell has a much better chance to win this fight than those odds would indicate. I mean, do I think he should be the favorite? No, probably not. I think John Silva, what he's doing right now is incredible to watch, but he hasn't fought somebody of this caliber. I mean, again, it's interesting, right? Because it's almost in a lot of ways like Paddy Pimblett, right? Because I look at John Silva, what's his best win to date? And I'd probably say Drew Dober, you know, a fantastic fight, an incredible fight. But a fight, again, where Drew Dober is one of those guys that everybody wants to watch Drew Dober fight. You know what I mean? Like, he's very exciting. He's a nice guy. He's fun. You know what I mean? He's awesome. But he's very much like a King Green in terms of that, right? Where he's, you know, never really been at the top of the rankings, has never fought at that championship level. And that's probably the biggest win for him right now. So this is the biggest test of John Silva's career. And does he have the ability to go out there and absolutely flatline Bryce Mitchell? Yeah, he does. But this is his biggest test, and I absolutely think that those odds are not indicative of the true skills here. I think it's odds of people betting against Bryce Mitchell, not liking Bryce Mitchell, and the odds makers knowing, like, we got to put some tasty lines if we're going to get anybody to throw money on Bryce Mitchell.
Bryce Mitchell's going to chain wrestle the hell out of this early on. He's going to try and get that gas tank down of Silva, and that's where the fight is. I haven't seen Silva. Silva is a going forward guy, right? And when you're going forward all the time, and if you miss, you're exposed. You're exposed to being taken down. Let's rewind when Bryce Mitchell was making a major impact onto the scene. Everybody was like, this is the second coming of Damian Maia-esque fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody was calling him a mini Damian Maia. He is that good on the ground. He is that good. I mean, he's hitting twisters on people. He's getting takedowns when he's not a wrestler, right? He's not like a true blue wrestler. But he's taking he takes everybody down. And if you come at Bryce Mitchell a little too aggressively, he's gonna find that spot to take you down. And when he takes you down, you usually don't get up. And if he doesn't submit you, you know what he does do? In his words, not mine. He cooks you.
Yeah.
He will cook you for the entire round. And I lean towards Bryce Mitchell here because I know what Bryce Mitchell can do. I don't know yet with Silva. I know that I'm fascinated by the guy. I know that I love watching him. I know that he can put anybody's lights out. But do I think Bryce Mitchell is going to engage in a stand-up fight and say, this is my spot, come to me, and we're going to duke it out? Hell no. Why would you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. And let me just clarify that he doesn't just cook you. He'll cook you to the bone, man. That's what he said. He'll cook you. But, you know, it's I couldn't agree more with you, man. I mean, listen, I get it. John Silva is the fan favorite right now, and understandably so. Like, is he a guy that I want to watch fight every single time out there? Yes. Hell yeah, I do. Yeah. But
and then give him a damn microphone.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. But this is way more intriguing than anybody wants to admit. Now, we saw, you know, Josh Emmett absolutely collapsed Bryce Mitchell. That was a scary knockout, right? But we know that Josh Emmett has insane power in there, right? I mean, why did Lerone Murphy fight him the way he did this past weekend, right? Like a lot of people have kind of criticized Lerone Murphy for sticking and moving and never really engaging in the firefight. And I've seen him come out defending himself on social media like, what did you want me to do? Like, that dude has power in the pocket. I'm not standing in the pocket. I'm smarter than that. I understand how to win this fight. So
and he caught Bryce Mitchell in an exchange where Bryce Mitchell decided in that moment, I'm going to strike with you.
Right. And I don't think this is one. Yep. And he understands that. And the only other loss that Bryce Mitchell has, Ilia Topuria, who at the time, I think a lot of us knew how good Ilia Topuria was, but I'm not sure everybody recognized just how good Ilia Topuria was at that time. So, I mean, listen, Bryce Mitchell has wins over guys like Dan Ige, Edson Barbosa, Andre Fili, maybe not quite the strikers that Jean Silva is in terms of power, although Edson in his prime was as dangerous as they get. But he's seen guys like this that at least bring that skill set to the table, and I think he understands that, I got to be careful in here. And not that Jean Silva doesn't have grappling as well, he does, but really, I don't think his grappling's on the level of Bryce Mitchell. I think it's the power and the striking, and Bryce Mitchell's going to be very aware of that. So, yeah, I'm with you here, too. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I'm picking Bryce Mitchell, but I don't hate anybody that is, and I do think the line is just absolutely disrespectful, to be honest with you. And I shouldn't say disrespectful. I mean, it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is to get money on both sides of the action. But I think odds makers setting this line completely understood that people were not wanting to throw their money in support of Bryce Mitchell. The on-sale press conference, I was the only one that asked Bryce a question. And even me, I didn't really ask him a question. I just said, hey, listen, this is your first public appearance since all this controversy. You've got a microphone. What would you like the world to know? You know what I mean? And from that point, nobody else said another word to him. Now, it ended up being a very long, lengthy part of the press conference because John Silva got up and started yelling at him and bringing the crowd. And people were booing Bryce Mitchell. So I really do think this line, if you really break it down, isn't about the skills. I think it's about the opinions and the public feelings on Bryce Mitchell.
Yep, I 100% agree with you. And that's why, like, if you were to say Silva's going to knock him out in the first round, I see it.
Yeah.
But if you were going to say Bryce Mitchell ducks under, gets a takedown, cooks him in round number 1, does it, and then that makes Silva press more in round number 2, and it happens again in round 2 and 3, and he cooks them all 3 rounds, I'm like, I absolutely see that. Absolutely see it. And I don't lean one way heavier either way. I just know that Bryce has faced a bigger competition. He's big under the bigger lights. Now, whether it's stress and everything that's happened weighing on him a little too much, maybe. That could be a possibility. But I also think that Bryce Mitchell needs this to redeem himself, and he's going to give everything he has. And I hope he does. You know what I mean? I was always a fan of Bryce Mitchell. I've said it a lot of times on this. He has always been so gracious and so nice to me every time I saw him. In fact, I was out in Las Vegas at the Ankalaev Freire pay-per-view. I was, inside the commission box, and Bryce Mitchell made it a point to come say hi, right? Minutes after getting booed relentlessly by the crowd by putting on. And I felt uncomfortable talking to him. Honestly, I did. I'm like, I feel uncomfortable right now because people are looking at him. I don't want any of that association. But I'll tell you this. Everything I've ever had with Bryce Mitchell was tremendously nice. He's been utterly complimentary of me when I have worked his fights. And it pains me that he did that. It pains me that he did that because I almost have to walk back my affinity for Bryce Mitchell. So I hope what he does is I hope he comes out, and I hope he has a great performance, and I hope he gives a true blue apology, and I hope people look at him for just saying stupid stuff and can forgive. Because I hope he really doesn't feel that way. That's my hope in all of this.
No, I love the way you lay that out there because I feel the exact same way. I've had some great, interactions with Bryce Mitchell over the years, dating back to his World Series of Fighting days. And I always thought he was a great character and great skills. I enjoyed watching him fight. And it's funny because, as I said, I mentioned that press conference that same weekend that was on Thursday night. And then I ran into him backstage on Saturday night as I was making my way post-fight from press row to the press tent for the post-fight press conference. And I ran into him, and I thought it was going to be a little bit awkward as well. But same thing. He walks over and shakes my hand. He was like, thank you again, for speaking to me the other day. And I appreciate everything you do. And he's always been a nice guy. He said some dumb stuff, man. That's all it was. He said some indefensible indefensible stuff. And I know he's apologized for it, but you're right, man. And again, John Silva, future superstar. So he could absolutely he could flatline Bryce Mitchell again, but I do think the odds are a little bit
What
off
do you think how deafening are those boos going to be Saturday night?
I'm talking about loud, man. Listen, we will be in Florida, but I don't know. I think I'm telling you right now, at the press conference on that on sale that weekend, they were pretty bad.
Do you think there's going to be more boos for Bryce Mitchell's, or do you think it's just going to be more ruckus ovation for Silva with the baby face that he is now, or the same?
I was going to say 60-40 in the John Silva cheers direct, because that dude is a baby face, man. That dude is an absolute star. People love him. People are going to go crazy, but they're going to be pretty close behind in their boos for Bryce Mitchell as well. It's going to be a rough environment for him as he walks out there for sure.
All right, so we've kind of touched base on the top fights on the card. I want to round it out one time. Don't really have much to break down on this, but the Krylov and Dominick Reyes fight. I said this after his last fight. This is Dominick Reyes 2.0. He took the time off. He cleared his head. We know this guy can fight with anybody in the world. He proved it against John Jones. He gets this win here. He's back in the conversation. I truly believe it. And if he looks good like he has his last two fights, he's back in the conversation. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. The guy has hung in there. He's still ranked number 11, if you can believe that. Even with all the setbacks, I think people, number one, they'll always point to that John Jones performance and give him credit there, but he never really slipped that far. And again, it's not a division that's just stacked. Heavyweight and light heavyweight both don't have a ton of names right now, so it's not as if there's just people pounding at the gates to move up there. But yeah, back-to-back wins over Dustin Jacoby and Anthony Smith. He wins here against Krylov. Dude, he's right there in the discussion for a big fight. So yeah, it is another big opportunity for him. And
he's always a guy I loved watching.
Card.
I loved watching him fight. Right, it was hard to watch him get utterly destroyed by Superman Span and other ones. Those were really bad knockouts he took. What do we attribute that to? I don't know, but I know he's looked phenomenal his last couple fights. Phenomenal.
He really has. And that rounds out a great main card. And then, look at the prelim. Dude, again, we talk about the pay-per-views being a little bit different. It's because the depth that they stack these things in. And I look at the prelims here. Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Fun fight and stylistically just intriguing, right? Because Sean Woodson, you just don't see featherweights that are his height. 6'2", right? You just don't see that. And the way he uses that jab and his boxing is fun to watch. I like that. Yan Xiaonan, Werner Gentioba, that's a really important fight at strawweight for sure. Darren Elkins and Julian Erosa, and I skipped over one fight. Darren Elkins and Julian Erosa, that's just going to be a fun. But those are two dudes that come out and scrap every single time. You know what I mean?
What's the tattoo on Elkins' chest? What is that?
The damage. He's got the damage. He's got the nickname. The damage.
In scratch writing, right?
Yeah, it's the best, man. Darren Elkins is incredible. So I love that. But the fight I skipped over, I wanted to point this one out because I'm intrigued by this one. Jim Miller and Chase Hooper. Jim Miller, the Iron Man, the dude that's been, just around the most time ever. Unbelievable. Chase Hooper, who's really improving, right? Came in as a teenager and he was more of a grappler. Now he's filling out the frame and he's starting to strike as well. But this is one I could not believe. Chase Hooper opened as a minus 450 favorite, and he's been bet up to a minus 750 favorite over Jim Miller, with Jim Miller coming back at plus 525. And I'm telling you right now, I get it to a degree. I do understand. Jim Miller is certainly, a little longer in the tooth. He's a little further down the path. We understand that. But I don't know, man. Chase Hooper, that big. I can get Jim Miller at plus 500. Jim Miller is 41 years old. He is 40. And Chase Hooper,
23, 24?
25 at this point.
25.
So, yes, there's a 16-year difference between them. So, from that perspective, as a fellow man closer to the age of Jim Miller than Chase Hooper, I understand what it's like going up against a young 20-year-old, but it was still kind of eye-popping for me to see those odds. I'm just
trying to think of what Dan Miller's best path to victory is here, and it's hard to come up with a best path to victory other than just hold.
Yeah, it is. It's his best path to victory is just grind, right? Grind and hold. Make it dirty, make it ugly, try to weigh heavy on you.
Hooper comes out shooting out of a cannon and kind of wears his gas tank low.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's, so now minus, what was it? 1,100 you said?
Minus 750. Minus 750.
750. I'd say if you were like plus 450 or minus 450, I'm like, okay, I can rock with that just because it is a tough fight. But Jim Miller is crafty enough to slow anybody down.
That's what I think.
So, yeah. Hey, listen, that's why they fight, right? That's why we play the game.
So let me see if I can, let's see. Yes. The implied odds probability calculator at minus 750, that is an implied odds of an 88.24% winning percentage for Chase Hooper. So that means that they fight 100 times, Chase Hooper wins 88 of them.
Do you have it broken down by TKO, decision, submission? What are those?
Let me find those.
That's I think where the real interest in this lies for me. Like, do they think that he's going to knock out Jim Miller? Do people think that he's going to submit him, or do they think he's going to outpace him to a decision? Because I think that's probably the thing. You can outpace Jim Miller to a decision.
It looks like we're still a little too early in the week to have those yet, so maybe we'll have them later on. But that is a great way to look at it. That's 100% great way to look at it.
So, yeah. Well, anyways, man, I'm excited for Saturday. We get another pay-per-view. It's been about a month, and outside of watching the pay-per-view, what do you got going on this weekend?
That's it, man. I will not be making the trip down to Miami. Just got a lot going on with the new role with CFFC, so can't make it out for this one. So I'll be watching on TV as well. Kind of a light week as I get ready to. I will be in Florida the following week. We've got CFFC 141 in Tampa next weekend, so just kind of gearing up for that, putting the final details on that. So kind of a nice easy week for me, and I'm looking forward to watching the pay-per-view on Saturday. How about you? I know you are not in the same boat as me in that you don't have a lot on the schedule right now. You have a ton on the schedule. I
have a ton on the schedule. Unfortunately, I mean, this, my business partner passed away, the MMA legend that is David Ferguson. Uncredited with the first ever Gogo Plata. If you ever look up his Fight Finder, it says like leg Kimura, like around the neck, because nobody knew what it was back then.
Is there tape of that? Dude, get me tape of it and I'll send it to the people. To send me the tape of it, and I know all the people that run the databases. If you can show them video evidence of it, you can get things like that changed. So
yes, I can get my hands on video. I'm actually meeting his widow here in a little bit to go over some business stuff. But
let's do that. Let's get that changed. Let's get history corrected. Let's get history corrected.
But he runs this massive gym out here in Memphis, Tennessee. It's called Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. We've produced very big high-level fighters. Jalil the Realist Willis, Kevin Sweet Pea Peace come out of there. Jacob Noe, do you remember that name?
Yep, absolutely.
Jacob Noe beat Seth Petrozelli, fought for a Bellator world title. Andy Urick fought for a Bellator main event. A lot of big fighters, and then a lot of fighters were coming across through. But anyways, upon his death, I have to kind of take over a managerial role within that company transitionally for a time. And then I got a game on Thursday, game on Sunday for the Grizzlies, watch the pay-per-view Saturday night. But I'm also coaching my boys' T-ball team as well.
Because you needed some more responsibilities. You're like, man, I just got all this spare time around. I'm just hanging out, doing nothing. What can I do to add to my schedule?
I'll never miss one of my kids' extracurricular activities, man. I live for that type of stuff, man. It's so fun.
I love it, man. Honestly, I mean, it's a silly thing, but that is honestly what matters, man. That's one of the biggest things you start to realize as you get a little bit later is that, man, all the stuff that seemed like it mattered and can't be disconnected from the phone because I might miss this story, back in the reporting days, or I might miss this tip or this text or this call. It's like, nah, man, that time with family, you're never, ever getting that back. So while the business opportunities and the jobs you can't survive without them, you got to have them. Man, you got to prioritize those family opportunities.
Oh,
man.
and by the way, and in one of my gyms here, I'm switching it over to being primarily a jiu-jitsu gym. Did a ton of renovation in there, widened a big mat space, and I'm running 2 different programs. 3: kids jiu-jitsu, and then adult jiu-jitsu, and then I have the most awesome program running in there. I call it Dad Jitsu. 35 and over, no young fellers. We don't want to grapple with the dude right out of college, the wrestler.
Right.
No, hell no. You stay over there. Us Dad Jitsu guys, we're going to train up here. I run that class. It's actually so much fun because I'm getting these like 45, 50, even 60-year-old guys that would be like, I've always wanted to do this, but I've been scared. Now I'm not. And then now these guys are watching YouTube videos of jiu-jitsu and stuff. It's hysterical.
That's awesome, man. It's a great idea because that really is the concern, right? You're like, dude, I just want to go in there and like stay in shape and like, play around with it a little bit. Like I have no delusions of grandeur. Like I'm chasing down a black belt, but you're worried now. Oh, you're going to pair me up with this kid that just finished up his D1 program. And like, come on, man, I'm not going to do that. That's cool, man. Good for you. I know you're always kind of, I love the fact that you're always kind of trying to think outside of the box of like, hey, what's a way to make martial arts training more accessible and more appealing to people, right? Because it can be a little scary, right? But once you get out there, I mean, there's no better way to train in the world. So good for you, man. I love the fact that you do that.
Yeah, it's funny. I gotta tell this one quick little story. This was last week during class, and I make them do like a lot of. They're not at the point because a lot of these guys are day one white belts, right? So they're not at the point where it's just like open roll, go 5-minute rounds, right?
Right.
So I start with like situationals. Okay, we're all going to start on the back this time. Now we're all going to start here. We're all going to start there. These situationals, and then I'm like, all right, guys, reset. And one of the guys was like, this is like we go at a slower pace. This is the dad jitsu class, and I go, I never told you what pace to go at. I told you what to do. It doesn't mean you have to squeeze as hard as you can for the whole time. That's when you start getting good. Bruce Lee said, flow like water.
That's right.
That's what you have to do. Now you're learning, guys. So now next time, just don't squeeze the whole time. Because guess what? The gi doesn't know how hard you're squeezing it.
That's such great advice, though, man. It is so funny, man. It is jiu-jitsu especially is the weirdest thing in that the immediate thing you think you need to do as a position is pull, and you really need to be pushing. You know what I mean? It just everything is the opposite of what you initially
it's like
think.
You grab something and you're like, you're just grabbing their gi, which doesn't do anything. You're just grabbing and freezing, and by default, you're holding your breath, and all your muscles are filling up, and then you're 1 minute in, you're like, I'm done, and I'm like, no, you ain't, son.
You're just getting started, bro. That was the warm up.
But it's tremendously fun. But yes,
that's awesome.
I have a lot on my plate right now, and I'm gonna get you footage. I'm gonna get you footage of that. I have access to his computer, so I can go back through all his old fights. Actually, just recently, I watched this Dan Severn fight. It was really fun.
That's awesome, man. Obviously a tragic loss, man. But yeah, let's get history corrected for the test of time. It showed that he was rolling out the Gogo Plata before anybody even knew what leg Kimura. What is that? Come on, man.
Yeah, nobody knew what it was, man. But he got his brown belt under like Royce Gracie in the 90s.
That's insane. That's unbelievable, man. The early adopters, man. It's amazing how far we've seen the knowledge and the game progress in such a short period of time, man. Blessed to be a part of it, man. So hey, listen, we'll talk about it next week, obviously. Yeah.
Fun story. Him and executive director Jeff Mullen both got their blue belts together from Royce Gracie at the same time.
Is that right? Wow. That's amazing, man. Yeah, Jeff's old school. Jeff has become, I think a lot of people didn't necessarily know a lot about Jeff when he came out here to Las Vegas, but he has become so universally like loved and respected because the type of character that he is and the old school knowledge base that he has, and just again the type of outside of just his knowledge of the sport, just his character. You know what I mean? That goes a long way.
Well,
so that's pretty cool.
On the day Dave passed, he called me, said, I know that Dave was your best friend. I love Dave as well. I want to tell you this fun story. And he told me the story how they made him roll till somebody got a submission. Whoever got the submission, Royce gave him the blue belt.
That's amazing. That is so cool.
And then Royce said, well, I was just screwing with you guys. You guys are both getting it anyway. So he made him roll like an hour.
That's great. Hey, but that's putting it on the line right there, man. I love it. It's like you thought it was the Ultimate Fighter and there was only one contract, but guess what? We gave it to you both, man. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, listen, I know in talking to Jeff out here, he was very shaken up and upset with the loss as well, man. So that's cool that he came out to offer support to you. So good dude, man. Very good dude.
Very good, very good. Well, anyways, with that being said, UFC 314 this Saturday from Miami, Florida. I can't pronounce the arena, so I'm not gonna. But with that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.